Hi, I'm Ashley, and I'll be introducing the genetic versus environmental causes of autism spectrum disorder. The cause of autism spectrum disorder has long been a debate within the psychological and scientific world, and even after so many years, there is still no single cause that has been found to explain autism. Autism spectrum disorder is best described as a complex developmental condition that involves persistent challenges in social interaction, speech and nonverbal communication, and restrictive and repetitive behavior, as according to the American Psychiatric Association. The characteristics and the severity of symptoms of autism spectrum disorder vary per person, but the rapidly increasing commonness of this disorder is making it even more prevalent to study and identify the causes of. Genetic influences are some of the most important when it comes to autism spectrum disorder because these factors cannot be controlled. Environmental factors are also important because this is something that can be controlled and is still being studied.
As previously stated, autism has become much more common in the last few decades. As you can see on this graph, in 1970, only 1 in 10,000 children were diagnosed with autism. In 2002, 1 in 150 children were diagnosed. But in 2018, 1 in 59 children were diagnosed with autism. More males are diagnosed than females with autism. Many attribute this rise in diagnosis to changes in how we identify autism. Because we know more about the characteristics of autism and have broadened the definition, more children are diagnosed every year. This increase has caused many people to wonder what causes autism and how we can decrease those numbers.
Hi, I'm Riley Haight, and I'm going to be discussing the varying viewpoints of the genetic versus environmental causes of autism spectrum disorder. Many researchers have different theories about the cause of autism spectrum disorder. It is very hard to find one specific cause of autism spectrum disorder because there are so many factors. There has been many studies that have attempted to find a cause. Many of these studies contradict each other, and one study will show one set of data and the other study will show the total opposite. A cause has not been found currently despite the countless studies. The only information scientists can provide are certain genetic and environmental factors that increase the risk of autism spectrum disorder. Some studies have shown genetic risk factors for ASD, such as gene changes, chromosomal abnormalities, and de novo mutations. Changes in certain genes increase the risk for autism. Sometimes these changes get passed down from the parents, which makes some scientists believe ASD is hereditary. Other times the gene changes are spontaneous, which makes other scientists believe the disorder is not hereditary. Some studies have shown chromosomal abnormalities increase the risk for autism, and other studies show the total opposite information. Many studies have researched the de novo mutation and shown a correlation between these mutations and autism spectrum disorder. De novo mutations are genetic but are not inherited from parents. These mutations can increase the risk for autism and lead some scientists to believe ASD is hereditary. This is a big debate between the science community.
This graph shows how genetic risk factors for autism are still largely a mystery to the science community. 15% come from Mendelian disorders and other mutations, 5% come from de novo mutations and other rare mutations, 3% come from chromosome abnormalities. Together, these three factors make up only 23% of all sources of genetic mutations in autism. That leaves 77% of all sources of genetic mutations in autism unknown, and scientists have no answers currently.
Other studies have shown that environmental risk factors increase the risk for ASD. Some environmental risk factors for ASD that have been researched are parental age, pregnancy, and birth complications, and low socioeconomic status. Parental age has been a major area of study lately. Many studies have shown that if one or both parents are older than 34, the risk for autism increases in their offspring. Some studies disagree with this, but there's a lot of data supporting this risk factor. Factors such as low birth weight, prematurity, and pregnancies spaced less than 1 year apart have also been shown to increase the risk for autism spectrum disorder. Additionally, low socioeconomic status has shown to be a risk factor for ASD. This is because pregnant mothers in a low socioeconomic class may not have the access to proper healthcare and parental education. This may keep mothers from getting proper prenatal vitamins, which have also shown a correlation to autism spectrum disorder. Also, extreme cases of neglect can increase the risk factor for ASD.
Hi, my name is Maddie Troutner, and I'll be discussing the internet-based articles. The cause of autism is unknown, but a growing research area is starting to focus on how the interaction of environmental and genetic factors can play a major role. There are also studies being conducted to further understanding on environmental factors, which are charge, marbles, and EARLI. The environmental factors that were discussed in my first article are air pollution, which mothers living near a freeway or traffic-related pollution were 2 times more likely to have children with ASD. Air pollution combined with a gene mutation called MET are even more at risk. Prenatal conditions and maternal factors are also another environmental factor. Their immune system issues, if the mother has immune system issues, maternal diabetes or obesity, inflammation during pregnancy, fever during pregnancy, and certain metabolic conditions. Metals, pesticides, and other contaminants are also another environmental factor. Exposure to insecticides during early pregnancy, zinc copper cycles, which help regulate metal in the body, were disrupted in children with ASD. Nutrition is another environmental factor. Studies found that women who took prenatal vitamins had a lower risk for children with ASD, and it helped to protect against certain environmental contaminants. Folic acid has also helped reduce the risk, and multivitamins have helped reduce the risk. My second internet-based article also discussed genetic and environmental risks. Some of the genetic risks stated were changes in certain genes increase the risk. Sometimes genetic changes can arise out of the blue in an early embryo or sperm or egg. The risks add up and eventually result in ASD. Some environmental risks which help to increase ASD are advanced parental age, complications during birth, pregnancies spaced less than 1 year apart. What helps decrease the likelihood of ASD is prenatal vitamins. What has no effect on ASD is vaccines. The American Academy of Pediatrics did a comprehensive research analysis and have found that vaccinations have no effect on whether or not your child can get autism. The difference in brain biology bring to light the environmental and genetic risks combined. Some factors affect how nerve cells or neurons communicate with each other, and then some affect how entire regions of the brain communicate.
I'm Olivia Wilkinson,
And I'm Bethany Budd.
and we are going to be discussing the peer-reviewed articles.
Almost all studies show high genetic factors contributing to diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Although genetic factors might be largely responsible for the occurrence of autism, they cannot fully account for all cases, and it is likely that in addition to a certain combination of autism-related genes, specific environmental factors might act as risk factors triggering the development of autism. Prenatal factors may play a large role in the development of autism spectrum disorder. Prenatal viral infection, zinc deficiency, abnormal melatonin synthesis, maternal diabetes, prenatal stress, toxins, and parental age all play a role in the development of autism.
As previously stated, it is difficult to identify the exact genetic factors associated with ASD. Since it is unable to be summarized into limited factors, many researchers have taken a multidisciplinary approach in investigating the causes of ASD on an individual basis. Some prenatal factors possibly associated with ASD are parental age of conception, gestational diabetes, gestational bleeding, multiple births, being the firstborn, maternal birth abroad, and paternal immigration.
Some peer review articles discuss twin studies. Twin studies indicate a genetic basis for autism spectrum disorder, and because of this, they have been studied extensively, though they do not account for all cases of ASD. The California Autism Twin Study, for example, with 192 identical and fraternal twin pairs, shows a concordance rate of 77% for male monozygotic twins and 50% for female identical twins. The rates among fraternal twins were 31% in males and 36% in females. The concordance rate of 31 over 36% of fraternal twins is higher than the observed rate of 3 to 14% between siblings of different ages. Thus, in addition to a genetic heritability, common factors such as the shared prenatal environment might play a role in the formation of ASD.
This slide shows the conclusion of the data from the California Autism Twins Study. The prevalence of autism was higher in identical twins because they share more DNA. This suggests there is a genetic component to autism. Additionally, many twins share common environmental factors such as prenatal and postnatal care in the environments that they grow up in.
Some environmental factors associated with ASD during pregnancy are exposure to air pollution. In a study done in California, residents in the proximity to a freeway in California within 309 meters during the third trimester of pregnancy and at birth was found associated with a risk of ASD about 2-fold higher. Maternal depression is also a factor that can affect ASD. Mothers that were depressed were associated with a approximately 60% increase in risks of ASD in their offspring. Premature birth is also a factor, and C-sections were originally thought to have caused higher risks of ASD. However, planned C-sections alone did not cause ASD. They have found that it is more common for C-sections to cause ASD when they are unplanned from umbilical cord complications, fetal distress, low birth rates, birth trauma, summer births, or feeding difficulties. Summer births can also cause significantly higher risks of ASD. And as previously stated, children whose parents are immigrants or are in the process of immigrating during pregnancy have high risks of ASD as well.
And now we'll take a look at how the genetic and environmental factors play a role together in the development of autism spectrum disorder. Autism disorders can vary, having causes in some cases that are not in others. The genetic disorders associated with autistic syndrome might have the same environmental factors that could contribute to the expression of behavioral autistic impairments. Despite recent studies on environmental risk factors for ASD, no single and major environmental factor has been identified, suggesting that further research should study a combination of factors through an integrated approach including gene and environmental interactions.
Many researchers have determined that it is not as useful to look for the genes of autism, rather to search the environment and genetic factors that play a part in each infant's development before and after birth.
In conclusion, many researchers have determined that there is no single cause of autism spectrum disorder, but research is still ongoing on the topic. Genetic and environmental factors have been at the forefront of the development of autism spectrum disorder, and it has been found that the combination of these two may be the cause of it. There are many steps that can be taken to lessen the effects and or chances of attaining autism spectrum disorder. But until more research can be done, it is still a topic of debate.